impact to the grid. There is a physicalness to the impact of an execution of some type of activity. But to say, comparing it to, it's like the muzzle flash of the sniper sitting here, to say that's where I can target my activity, that is where the difficulty of taking the physicalness out of cyber. But saying it's, there is no physical impact, no, I don't believe anybody has said that.
And so real quick, why not just say warfare? Why say cyber warfare? Why not just say warfare?
Yeah, it is. That's why I'm saying I don't understand the distinction between the two. Cyber warfare versus warfare, it's all warfare. And you know, the gentleman from US CERT, you guys provide us guidance and information on vulnerabilities and exploits. Why aren't we seeing physical? Why aren't we trying to map out and tie all of the pieces together so that we can try to recognize patterns, so when we can see physical security breaches and tie those to, or attempt to tie those to cyber breaches? Maybe there's a correlation there, I don't know. But until we can try and correlate all of those events, I think we're going to have a struggle in defining this space and what the boundaries are.
Just in the aspect of time, so law enforcement handles a lot of is the physical component of that, and part of our relationship with the law enforcement community, you know, we deal with that. Sometimes it's organizational, it's not even law enforcement. So having a physical breach is up to each individual organization to work with law enforcement and others, and sometimes that type of information doesn't get conveyed because it's a slightly different lane in the road.
Right, and Randy, that's at the low end. At the high end, he's right. You blow up, you know, you bomb a telephone exchange. Well, yeah, that's a form element of cyber warfare. Yeah, I'm looking right at you, Marcus.
Yeah, I know you are. I just think we have to be careful about not getting so wrapped up around the term warfare that we lose track of the fact we need effective responses at whatever definition we're at. And those responses are almost certainly going to have to be a public-private combination in this world.
Right, but conflict's probably better.
We've got time for one more question, and then we've got to wrap up. If you got questions afterwards, feel free to come up and talk to specific panel members.
Because I'm not currently admitting to any federal crimes, I'll identify myself. I'm Joe Mann with the Financial Times, and this question is for Marcus and Melissa and anybody else who wants to jump in. But I'm looking also for reaction to Hayden's comments on a couple things. One was this the sort of geographic, the likelihood of, they're both about the likelihood of developing international consensus that's meaningful on both sort of responsibility for actors within your geography, and then for these norms that would include banning DDoS and protecting financial and power networks. Is any of that remotely feasible, and in what kind of time frame?
Just a brief answer. I've been part of those CFR discussions, Council on Foreign Relations, and yeah, I think we can do things there. But this isn't something we do this week, next week, or this year. It's going to be a multi-year process. But the best part is that we are now having the ability to talk about it. A lot of this previously was locked up, couldn't discuss it, classified. Those doors have been unlocked, and that allows now the general public, not just US citizens, but citizens of other countries, to get involved in this. We need that thinking. We need the perceptions of what other nations, other ethics, other mindsets, so we can synthesize an international understanding of what are these new rules. And again, we won't do that this year, but at least now we're moving forward, which is good news.
I think there are two events that have happened in the last 2 months that suggest that there's the beginning of international dialogue. And first was the UN government group of experts, where 15 nations agreed that we needed to talk about this and get to common definitions. And the second, which might be more important, was in mid-May, the NATO group of experts report published their advice on the NATO strategic concept review, which is basically NATO 2020, and highlighted cybersecurity as one of the top 8 priorities, where if there was an event similar to an Estonia event, it would require mutual assistance, and it would actually call upon Article 5 of an attack upon one is an attack upon all. And that will then now have to open up what is an act of armed aggression in cyberspace, and what is proportionality in a whole, and what is a combatant in cyberspace and a non-combatant. And all of those issues will have to be addressed now by NATO and most of Europe.
Thank you.
I also think that the sky is not all dark clouds. I think there's a lot of good that can come to dialogue internationally with people that have backgrounds in any sort of technical industry that touches the internet. And you saw this in Haiti. I mean, you saw code being jammed up, you saw dev tools being deployed to help the people in earthquake-stricken areas. You saw the same thing in Banda Aceh and some other areas. And you've seen on sites like Patients Like Me, run by Jamie Haywood, where patients that have the same ailments have come up with 1,200 cures for medical conditions doctors didn't even know about, all because they could talk to each other, regardless of race, language, culture, etc. So in addition to kind of echo what Melissa said on the other side of the house, I think we have a huge opportunity to sit down and have the dialogue, and I think the very system that we're talking about is the best venue to do that.
All right, well, I want to thank the panel, and thank you all for attending. Thank you.